Hey YouTube, Joe Walker here at Def Digits Guitar Lessons, going live for my student Roberto, who's missing his lesson today. And I want to show Roberto some Stevie Ray Vaughan style double stop bends like I was just doing there, kind of like this kind of stuff. So that's sort of in this normal pentatonic blues box, but it's not really, I don't see it really addressed very often when people start talking about here's the kind of stuff that you can do over a blues in the minor pentatonic thing. But I hear it a lot in Stevie's playing and a lot of other players who inspired him and were inspired by him. So let's dig into it. We're in this kind of context. I'm playing in A right now, and then I'll show you how to move it to other keys because there are some other considerations when we're on other parts of the fretboard. We're in A right now, the 5th fret, using A minor pentatonic. We're in that kind of context. And normally when you're in that kind of context, you might be bending notes like this one right here. Those are the notes that you probably bend most often when you're playing bluesy kind of stuff. So what I'm going to do for these double stop bends, I'm specifically focusing on two double stops. Those two right there. One of them is flat out in the scale that we're playing. You could probably get this on any pair of adjacent strings. It's the B and G strings right there on the 5th fret. I'm using my first finger to do this. And when I play this like this, I'm only getting 2 notes. I'm strumming all 6 strings when I do that. So if you're playing this kind of in the aggressive Stevie Ray Vaughan kind of style, it's important that you get your thumb over the top and you're doing some muting with your thumb and your finger. I'll show you exactly how I'm doing that. My thumb is going over the top and it's getting 2 strings. It's touching these bottom 2 like that. And then my index finger is going, it's doing one of these moves where that last knuckle goes flat and I can flatten it across a couple of strings there. I don't want it like this. I don't want it hanging off the edge like that because then I'm going to get too many strings. I only want to get 2 strings. And here, I'll keep it like this so you can see it. The tip of this finger is going to be on the D string. So it's muting the D string. And the pad of this finger right here, you might be able to see the 2 grooves of those 2 strings right on the pad of that finger. The pad of the finger is getting 2 strings, the 3rd string and the 2nd string. And then the back of that finger, where it swoops out of the way of the strings, is actually muting that high E string. So if I go through all 6 strings and show you what everything is doing at this moment when I've got this chord, or I've got this double stop. So 3 clunks on those low strings. My thumb is getting 2 of those clunks. And then the tip of my index finger is getting that D string clunk. And 2 clear notes, and the high E string is going clunk too. So when I get all of this, all I'm hearing is those 2 notes, but I get that really aggressive attack. So that's the first one. We can take that little double stop and we can bend it just a little bit. Bend it with the pad of your index finger towards the floor, just a little bit. We can't go very, very far because we don't have a good grip on it. If we had it like this with the tips of 3 fingers, we could bend it quite a bit. We could bend 1 string quite a bit. But we can just do a little bit like that. So send it back to the root right there on the D string with your 3rd finger. You can get that kind of move. And you can just throw that double stop into your playing and it gets you that kind of crunchy bluesy feel. So the other one I want to show you is 3rd finger on the 7th fret, doing the exact same move, getting 2 notes on the 7th fret. You clunk out on the high E string. Your thumb is still muting the 2 low strings. The tip of that finger is still muting the D string. So it's like the mirror image of what you had going with your 1st finger over here, but now you do it with your 3rd finger. Now, one of these notes is not in the minor pentatonic. That note right there is not in it. So we're not strictly playing the notes of the scale anymore. We're using a note that's outside the scale but it gives us a different flavor that still blends with what we're doing, whether we're playing in major or minor. If we're playing strictly in minor, it works great. If we're actually playing in major, it still works great. That note up there that's outside the scale, outside the minor pentatonic, works great in both contexts. So this one, we can also bend, and I find that when I bend this with the third finger, I can bend it a little more than I was able to bend with that first finger. With that first finger, I just kind of lose the grip as soon as I start to bend it just a tiny bit. But with the first finger, you only need it just a tiny bit. Just barely noticeable is all you need. With the third finger, we can do a little more of a drastic move like this. Maybe it's because I have better leverage on that finger. I don't know. Now, when you're bending two strings at a time like this, with one finger, the pad of one finger, you have very little control over how far it bends. So we're not doing any of this kind of exercise anymore, trying to get the note to bend exactly to tune. We're doing more of that kind of effect. Like, it doesn't really bend exactly up to a note and then back down. We can bend it just a tiny bit, or we can bend it a lot, but usually those bends are going to be quick. They're not going to be like, it's not going to be one of those where you bend it and you hold it. It's a quick up and back down with both of these, whether you do the first finger or you, in that case, you bend it up and then you land on a different note very quickly. And this one you usually bend up and down without going to something else first. So that's our bread and butter right there. His third finger is going to go up, down, and then first finger is going to go up just a tiny bit and then land on the root down there. Like that. That's a move you should try to get under your fingers if you're trying to get this kind of style in your hands. You don't always have to bend those double stops when you hit them. They sound great when you use them together like that, even as kind of like notes in a scale. I didn't bend any of them there. It was kind of just using, each time I played one of these two notes on the G string, I just added the note above it on the B string. Now here's the beauty about bending the third finger. Something cool I wanted to point out that I only just noticed as I was preparing for this video. It's implying this. When you go from, you get that little move going 5th fret, 7th fret, now you're getting 9 and 8. You might have seen that before on, if you're playing Stevie Ray Vaughan, he does that kind of stuff all the time in all different keys. When you bend this third finger double stop up, it really approximates those two notes. It's not exact because you don't have so much control over it. But for some reason, this note tends to bend a whole step and this one tends to bend a half step. That's pretty crazy. So you get that kind of thing going on. Now let's look at moving this up to the key of E. When you're up here at the 12th fret, there's some other things to consider. One is that everything's closer together, obviously. To me, it feels a little more like, because things are cramped, I'm going to get some extra notes in there that maybe I don't want, but maybe also sound fine. So here's what can happen sometimes is you get those two notes that you want, but also that one on the high E string. And that's an E up there. It's fine. But what happens as soon as I bend it towards the floor, I lose that high E string. Hopefully it just mutes itself out instead of sounding like one of those things. Same thing with the third finger. I might get that note on top, unintentionally. I'm trying to mute it, but I might get it up there, but it actually sounds fine. If I'm not bending it, I probably get it quite often. Those sound just fine to me. One last thing to consider, which might be a problem for you, I notice it quite a bit when I'm playing at the 12th fret particularly, is the harmonics at the 12th fret. This might be a bigger issue if you're on the bridge pickup. Those might be coming out. Like when I play this and I'm trying to mute the D string with the tip of my first finger right at the 12th fret, that harmonic is coming out because that harmonic is at the 12th fret. And that doesn't happen as strongly anywhere else. It happens at the 7th fret just a little bit, 5th fret even less. Can hardly hear it there over the sound of the double stop. But up here, it's like it's its own note that's in there too. So when I'm playing at the 12th fret, I actually have to make a little adjustment. Either my thumb is going to come over and mute that D string, or I'm going to move this finger just a little bit away from the fret, and it doesn't have that strong of a harmonic effect. So anytime I'm playing in the key of E, or anytime I'm playing anything in that 12th fret position where my first finger might be trying to mute something at the 12th fret, I'm really conscious of this because of all of those harmonics. It's a little bit like I have all of those open strings are ringing, except they're just ringing up here instead. When we're playing in a blues setting, we're going to be at the 12th fret quite a bit. No matter if we're in the key of E or A or B, we're going to be up there a lot. So just try to keep that in mind. Let's see. Let me give you one last example. So I gave you this example as your bread and butter. You take the third finger up and down, first finger bend it up, land on the root, like that. This little lick comes from, I think, the last solo of Pride and Joy. Like that. So we're going third finger, first finger, and then the root. And then first finger, root. And then first finger, third finger, first finger. Bend up here. And then bend, or strum again when you release the bend. Like that. Let me do it quickly and then slowly again. Hopefully that's slow enough so that you can get it in that context. And be leading into that and leading out of it are typical Stevie-style blues licks. Those kind of things. That's all I got for you on the double stop bends. Have a good time with those. Thank you for watching, and I'll see you next time.